Very rarely will I go on public Wi-Fi. It's so dirty.
You're getting guilt for being on public Wi-Fi.
Public Wi-Fi is like a gas station bathroom, you know?
It really is.
Have you heard of this black phone called Anom? Yeah. So I was listening to Darknet Diaries. If you're listening to this podcast, you should definitely listen to that one because their podcast is way better than ours.
The defense would say, okay, well, how did you get this data or this information? And they just start making up bullshit stories until they can't commit perjury. So eventually,
the biggest risk there is that somebody can steal credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, and welcome everyone to the Ransomware Rewind podcast. In this episode, we are talking about ransomware as a service, or RaaS. We go over a lot of different types of ransomware as a service. We talk about the low barrier of entry for hackers and scammers. There's a lot that we're covering here. We kind of jump around a little bit in this episode, but I think you'll find it entertaining and informative. Enjoy the show.
So the thing that gets me about ransomware as a service is no one knows about it. No one's talking about it. And it makes it really easy for threat actors to get into the space. They literally have affiliate plans now. It's just that big, where the people that write the ransomware can tie in with just anyone, like any of the clowns on the internet that are in the affiliate space to go out there and commit crime. And the challenge I have with it is it's on the dark web, and it's just hard to track down. But now anyone can do it. So think about it. If there's this low barrier to entry, then it just means it's going to take off. Mm-hmm. That's the main thing that strikes me about ransomware as a service.
So ransomware as a service is basically software that is out there on the web that anyone can download. They pay for a license just like they'd pay for a license with Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And then if they use it against somebody, then they pay like a kickback to the person that actually created it. So like AlphaV, Black Cat, Hive, any of these ransomware companies have used their expertise to create this ransomware, and they're selling it on the black market, on the dark web, whatever, to bad actors, just people that are trying to make money off others and scam them. And then they have to just pay them back, 30, 40% of whatever they ransomed.
Yep. And it's just like what they did is they created a distribution market with everyone on the web can just go on the dark web, which anyone can do. And then you would buy it just like you have your Microsoft license and you have your Microsoft SPA agreement. Well, you would do the same thing with the ransomware, and then you put it out there, and then as long as they get their cut, you're good. And when I did a little bit of research on this and saw that they actually have like support lines that are available 24/7, it's a big moneymaker, and not so many people are talking about it.
How do you get on the dark web?
Well, there's this browser, Tor browser, that we're not going to talk about, and then you've got to use a VPN to go into it, and then it'll be on a private IP space. But basically, what you want to do is you want to spoof your IP, use the Tor browser, and then there's specific IP addresses that you'd use to get into. And then when you get into it, it looks different. It looks like the old
DOS.
Yeah, and there's like the sites are like message boards. Not that I know.
Well, it's interesting because it's so like ambiguous on what the dark web is that I think if people knew like what it was, how easy it is to get on there, that they would take this stuff a little bit more seriously as like, it's not me that they're after. Only hackers can get on the dark web. And we're seeing now that any criminal can get on the dark web with probably a Google search for how to get on the dark web. They find the sites, the .onion sites that they need to get to, and then they can download this ransomware as a service, and they may use it at a place they work. Maybe they work at like a cleaning janitorial company. Nothing against janitorial companies. But then they just like insert USB drives as they walk around and clean. And then, we've got ransomware. They're ransoming. They get a bunch of money. Sometimes the AlphaV or Black Hat will do the negotiations for them, and they just take their cut and they give them the cut.
Yeah, there's just like a really low barrier to entry, and I don't think most people realize how easy it is to be compromised. And they can run tools to scan your network and see if you're compromised already, and you probably are. Most people are. It's just, when I say compromised, is where there's openings and someone could infect you with malware if malware is not on your network as it is. But just what gets me when I take a step back and I think about the whole RaaS play is, if you go online, I don't know about you, but whenever, as soon as I go on YouTube or anywhere else, it's like, make money online, you make 30 grand in 1 month.
Right.
Well, who do you think's going to look at the ransomware as a service like, oh shit, I can do that. I'm up for 30 grand a month just by spreading ransomware all over, and I'll have the techies do it. It's not, it's just not a really sophisticated group of people in this space as far as the ones that are executing it. And it's smart for all the hacker groups to stay in the back and just manage it because they're getting paid, and there's no exposure for them.
Yeah, it's a franchise distribution model with no way of tying it back to them, except for the money.
Yeah, except for the money, and obviously they're using Bitcoin and other.
Yeah, Monero.
Yeah, no one's going on Venmo and say, no, hacking services, malware, so it's tracked to them. That's just not how it works. But I think it's really smart for people to just do the same things you always do, is like run your patches and updates. The reason why your computer always has to do these updates because the malware's out there and these people are selling it to get on there. And if you don't run your updates, then you run a problem of getting compromised.
Before you go on, can you explain the vulnerability scans and how people can use them, how hackers use them to figure out who to attack?
On a very base level, the computer has ports that are open. The ports are used to communicate with the internet. So what would happen is, if you have an open port and I have a vulnerability, let's say port 1088, and then that vulnerability will go straight to 1088 and it'll infect your system and you won't even know it. And there's certain ports that are common, like port 80 is to get onto the internet, port 25 is an email port, and so forth. But there's these whole upper level proxy ports that aren't even monitored, and that's oftentimes how they get into it. So when you run the updates, when you run the scans, they'll say, oh, this port is open when it shouldn't be, or there's traffic on this port when there shouldn't be traffic on this port. And that's high level. That's what the port monitoring does. Also, we'll talk about port scanning. It's very easy, just run a port scan to see what ports are open, and what they'll look for is RDP. It's the remote desktop protocol that Microsoft uses, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone uses RDP. It's just, if those ports are open and you don't have a firewall in place, or you're vulnerable, they're just going to get right into all your data.
And for RDP, the biggest risk there is that somebody can steal credentials, and if you don't have multi-factor authentication enabled, they can get into your computer through RDP, which is a legit tool.
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
But that's it if they have your credentials, which they can get off LinkedIn breaches, AT&T breaches, any breach where your username and password has been taken, they can try all those. They also have dictionaries that are specific for, cracking passwords. So if they have your email and they have your RDP, they can probably crack your password within a few hours if it's not very complicated.
Yeah, that's what's concerning, because then they have, every company has data, and I'll say this every episode, and people need to realize this, need to protect the data just like you would protect you are protecting your customers, you're protecting your life. And it's so easy just to go, okay, I'm going to go in this marketplace, I'm going to use this really sophisticated system that's going to inject malware into these people, and they're going to have to pay me. And, oh, by the way, I'm going to have these people that are going to support this infrastructure, and no one will ever know it was me. It's just really simple, having the patches, updates, having endpoint protection, like we said earlier, like MFA. If I have RDP credentials for your business and I try to log into it, first thing it's going to do, if it has MFA, is send a message to the phone. Like, oh shit, I don't have my cell phone associated with this account, so I'm not going to get in.
Right.
And they'll do it with like thousands of accounts at once. So yeah, it's scary when you think about it. And then the other thing that gets me is just they're getting into this where they're supplying the ransomware as a service, and people within a certain nation will, pay them, get the injections in there, and get it out there. So again, it's like a shotgun blast. So people
Yeah, and I don't think our nation is not guilty of that either. I mean, the U.S. government loves zero-day exploits. They just don't want anyone else to have it.
Exactly.
And them hoarding these zero-day exploits could lead to hackers getting in and stealing them, which happened with WannaCry with Zero Blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clear Blue?
No, I think it was WannaCry and Clear Blue. Yeah.
Yeah, Clear Blue was the Windows Zero. Pretty much almost brought down the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and it's concerning with all these centralized systems too, because it would not take much to shut everything down. It really would, and it wouldn't have to take a sophisticated hacker either. It could be someone that I kind of made my notes as like the Uber of hacking is kind of like, okay, you want a car to the airport, like, yeah, I just want a hacker to take down these company that I hate. Oh, by the way, it's this really sophisticated malware that came out of NSA. Boom.
right?
Yeah. So it's out there. And then the nation states are concerning, because now you've got like the people that will be like the Uber of hackers getting access to these really sophisticated solutions and just wreaking havoc. And I know I tend to be on the paranoid side, but it's here. People need to be aware of it.
Yeah, and the nation states and the hackers that are using ransomware as a service, they're probably using similar stuff. The nation states have a little bit more resources, and they're probably writing some of this code or taking this ransomware as a service and making it their own.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very well funded. They anywhere to stop, or your SOC sysadmins that are at their desk waiting for something to come in and stop it. Yeah. Hopefully.
So it's just and those guys are so worked. I mean, they're so overwhelmed, and they're held liable for everything, which is not cool. But yeah, that's my biggest concern, and we know our own country is doing that to us and everything. Why wouldn't they do that to other countries? And it'd be so easy for them to do. It's like, hey, it's not us. I went on the dark web, and some random person in China, yeah, they got to blame it on him. And meanwhile, it's our country, hiring people. And I know I'm jumping down the rabbit hole here, putting on my tin hat, but what's to stop them from doing that? Because it's not tracked back to them.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say, who knows that NSA would do that? And obviously the other countries do the same thing to us. And it's just so easy to do.
Have you heard of this black phone called Anom?
Yes. Okay.
So I was listening to Darknet Diaries, which, if you haven't checked that out yet, you should definitely check it out if you're into this kind of. If you're listening to this podcast, you should definitely listen to that one, because their podcast is way better than ours.
But hey, they inspired us.
Yeah.
And to that point, I know that we're not super technical. We're more on the business case. However, I think the business world should start listening to Darknet Diaries. And I do think that they need to be aware of that world instead of just dismissing it as some geek stuff.
Right. It's not an IT problem. It's the whole company's problem.
Exactly. And that's kind of what brought Joe and I into this world, as in obviously doing cloud sales and data center sales. But it's just when I start seeing the attacks, like DDoS attacks, where they just shut down 10 gigs, boom. And back in the day, it's really expensive. Now, this falls right into what we're talking about. You can rent a DDoS attack for, say, like $2,000 and take a company down. You do that to a financial services company, it can wipe them out. You shut down trading for a few hours. So you brought up a good point. I don't mean to belabor the point, but Darknet Diaries is great. And I think people in our side of the table that are on the business side should pay heed to what's going on in the hacker world. Absolutely. It's fascinating too.
Yeah. So this Anom phone, right? They got the guy that was putting it out there and advertising it as like a phone for criminals, so they can talk and text and do everything. And I don't know if it was a CIA or FBI, got a hold of him and said, hey, we can, take you to jail, or you can cooperate with us, and we're going to bankroll your phone company. And we want you to give these phones to like all your criminals, sell them out, like they're the most anonymous phones out there. And they were like spying on every single person that had these phones.
I remember that. It was fascinating because they had like high-level people in the cartels and various criminal organizations that were using these phones under the guise that they were private. And in actuality, it could have been worse. Yeah, that was a fascinating story.
And the police had to make like little excuses of how they figured out how to take these people down.
In a court of law, too.
They couldn't say like, we did it from the Anom phone, because they wanted to keep that secret so that they could keep taking down more and more people. So I think they there's some moral ambiguities there with spying. Like, what crimes are we going to actually pay attention to? Just violent crimes? Or if Johnny's cheating on his taxes, should we, like, be spying on him? And then some of these people weren't, abroad. They were Americans. So are we allowed to spy on Americans if they have these phones too?
And the answer is yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe not in a court of law, but the way it works. And I remember reading about that because it was so funny. It's like the defense would say, okay, well, how did you get this data or this information? And they just start making up bullshit stories until they can't commit perjury. So eventually you had to come down and say, okay, yeah, we have this whole phone, this network, and the Anom phone. But it's a fascinating story. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to read that again.
Absolutely.
And they funded it.
Yeah, they funded it.
Funded the phones. It was like a startup. It was
they
like
had like factories and phone factories and distribution. And
it was legit.
Yeah, it was a legit company, just all funded by the FBI. Kind of like the what was that one where they gave the guns to the criminals?
Oh, I remember they had the one down on the border. It was
it's named after that horrible but really entertaining movie, Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious. Oh, yeah. They ran that franchise forever. They ran it into the ground.
Yeah.
One wasn't bad enough, but apparently, we got a freeway behind you. There's your episode of Fast and the Furious.
Right.
But yeah, I remember that. It's just so bizarre. Like, why would you... So they sold guns to criminals to catch the criminals.
Mm-hmm.
What's the logic in that? But who knows? And the same way goes into the digital world. They're selling ransomware to criminals, which you brought up a good point, though, or I kind of thought on top of my head. When you go to these exchanges, how do you know it's not a nation state or someone like the CIA or FBI that's selling you the malware? You go out and commit the crimes, and they got all the evidence they ever need to convict you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it really is. Like, that's what I would do if I was on the law enforcement side. Well, shit. I'll see you through the whole thing.
Right, like a little honeypot.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly what it is.
Undercut the competition and say, we're only going to take 15% of your take on these ransoms. And we're not going to charge you a monthly fee. You should definitely buy ransomware as a service from us. And then it ends up being a big sting.
Mm-hmm. And let's face it, the ones doing it are not that sophisticated. It means one's buying it because otherwise they would just execute it themselves. So the law enforcement agencies can find a ton of people. We're not giving any suggestions. Just say. Be really easy to do. Idiots buying ransomware online.
Just Google how to buy ransomware online. I'm sure it's easy. I haven't done it yet. But make sure you Google it on a Brave browser with a VPN. That's all I got to say. In incognito mode. Definitely be on incognito mode.
Just spoof your IP.
Double spoof it.
Double spoof it, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that? Double spoofing?
Yes.
It's like a hopping. What's it called? IP hopping?
IP hopping, but like the way you have to do it, you have to be on a completely different subnet. And then not only that, you can go geographically, which is kind of funny. If you play with it, like we're in San Diego, it'll make it look like I'm in Russia. So if I run an attack, it'll look like it's coming from Russia when in actuality it's coming from San Diego.
Right, or the other way around. If you are a Russian hacker and somebody's smart enough to make it so that you can't hack from another country, then you can use the VPN to theoretically hack from here, right? Because, if you are configuring your settings, if you don't have anyone abroad, you should have your settings set that nobody from abroad can get into your network.
Exactly.
Or log in if they have credentials. And if you don't have MFA, that's one more protection.
Mm-hmm. And that's really common too, because a lot of companies have their developers that are outsourced in other countries.
Do you use a VPN?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So the answer would be no. Like when I'm on my work computer, yes. At home on my regular computer, no.
Okay.
I probably should.
I started using one. It's interesting. A lot of apps don't love VPNs. You kind of have some kind of problems with it. But like I was saying before, like if I'm using my VPN and I have it accidentally in Canada or Zurich or Switzerland, whatever, then I can't get into my email or anything like that because I got those settings, right?
Yeah.
But then I switch it back to the US and then I'm in. Right.
Challenge I had is it just created lag, and I think that's why I got kind of lazy with the VPN. It just created lag when it had to authenticate, and every time I wanted to go do something, it had to authenticate, and I was like, I just don't want to deal with this. I can see with work, but like on my personal computer, just it's like I don't even care. I don't want to deal with this. I got lazy, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I was using Zscaler, and I'm sure Zscaler is a fine product. It was just it's just anything that adds complexity in my life I hate, and I just hated authenticating every time I went to go use Zscaler to use an application.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I've been using Surfshark, and I like it because they give you unlimited devices to do it on. And I haven't noticed too much lag. So I've been enjoying using it, especially since, you know, it's just one more way to protect myself when I'm like using public Wi-Fi or, you know, although I don't use public Wi-Fi, I always use mobile Wi-Fi if I can. Very rarely will I go on public Wi-Fi. It's so dirty.
You're getting guilt for being on public Wi-Fi. Like,
Public Wi-Fi is like a gas station bathroom, you know?
it really is.
You don't want to use it if you don't have to.
That's just that you're going to scare people from using public Wi-Fi. That'll do it.
Yeah.
It is like the public bathroom. Just don't do it.
Airport Wi-Fi is like an airport bathroom. It's like it looks clean, but you know it's not clean.
Yeah, you know it's not.
People from all over the world have been in and out of there.
It will not pass the blue light test or the black light test.
Right. So yeah, VPNs are good for businesses and personal. I think I had this video about how like maybe VPNs are obsolete because there's this hack called tunnel vision where people can sit on your network and they can actually like redirect your VPN traffic. But then I thought about it, and it's only going to be a really sophisticated hacker that can do that. And every type of control has some kind of way of a hacker to get around it. But every time you put up a control, like a little wall, it makes it harder and harder for them to go to you, and they'll go to the next guy because you're too hard of a target. Hack.
Oh, absolutely. And human nature is we all take the path of least resistance. So the harder you make it for them, the better. And I'd much rather have this minor inconvenience, even though I complain about like authentication and so forth. It'll be a lifesaver, literally. And when they're scanning like thousands of computers, you don't want to be that one guy that's just sitting out there naked that's willing to get attacked.
Yeah. And going back to the scanning, I think another thing that those scanners look for is like legacy software, like end-of-life software.
I'm glad you brought that up. There's something that's going on right now is VMware they got bought out by Broadcom, as everyone knows, but they stopped supporting ESXi, the free version. So what that means right now is there's people that are completely vulnerable using ESXi, the free version, and hackers are taking advantage of it. There's already malware around it, and there's like thousands of servers right now that are being compromised because they're not getting patched, they're not getting updated, because you can't. You got to take them offline because they've already got viruses out for that. So if you're running VMware and you're running the free version, ESXi, guarantee you're being compromised right now.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, like, well...
I know VM means virtual machine.
Right, well, VMware pretty much dominate, and they still do, the enterprise space for virtualizing servers. So when they virtualize the server, they have all the VMs. They have to pay for the software, which is VMware, to create those VMs and to orchestrate the VMs. What a lot of people did, like let's say you had an office, 10 people, and you don't want to pay the licensing fee for VMware, you would get ESXi, and then with ESXi, you can set up your little print VM, your little Active Directory VM, and you can run your office from it. It's pretty cool. And now that they got rid of the free version of ESXi, people, and it was very introductory. It's just for like small offices, and that was the main thing it was used for. But now that Broadcom purchased VMware, the person that's running a small office that has, like, say, a server in the closet that's running the free version of VMware, running those little VMs like I was talking about, they're going to be compromised, like whatever data is going in and out of there. And some people will say, well, Mike, maybe the endpoints are protected. But no, the server itself, where all that data is going in and out, is compromised if you're running that free version.
Right. And if they can get to the Active Directory, it's all over.
Yeah, because they can authenticate.
So if you're out there and you're running free
Free ESXi.
EXSSI,
Yeah, Echo Sierra X-Ray India.
okay. I'm not going to get that.
Sorry.
I'm such a cybersecurity noob. It's fine. I don't care.
But yeah, people, it's very common. There's millions of people that run that operating system.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, end of life software, people can scan for it and they can put you in a category that's using the VMware, and then they're going to target you.
They're going to target you. Same with all the people on, I'm going to go on a diatribe, so bear with me. Like all the people out there that are running Windows Server 2008, you got to upgrade. I know you don't want to do it. You either move to the cloud, upgrade your operating system to the latest operating system, because people are looking for that all day long. I had a client in the past that was an attorney, and he was literally running Windows 2003. He got malware, and he didn't have enough insurance. He got in a world of trouble. He didn't get disbarred or anything, but it really had a big effect on himself, and more importantly, his family and his livelihood, because they shut down everything. They shut down Exchange. He didn't have the emails with his clients, and all it was is just not upgrading his operating system to a version that was an end of life.
Mm-hmm. So what did he get, like WannaCry or
I can't remember the specific one.
One of those old...
It was one of the older ones, but the point being is people scanned the network, and if you're sitting out there on an end-of-life operating system they can't be patched. When you call Microsoft and say, hey, can you patch my Windows 2003 server, they're going to tell you to go to hell. It doesn't exist. So that point being, I kind of digress there, someone could go get ransomware as a service. They can go find anyone with end-of-life software, and there's, for whatever reasons, there's like attorneys, accountants, people that have tons of exposure are on these end-of-life operating systems, and boom, the bad guys are in there.
Right.
They're just sitting out there like sitting ducks. Okay, I'm done with my rant. Don't use end-of-life operating systems, god damn it.
Yeah, I think there's like modems out there too. I think D-Link just put one of their modems out of service, or they're not going to support it anymore, like something 894. If you have that in your modem, don't use that one anymore. And they're still like selling these modems.
That's concerning.
In like South America and stuff. So
that is concerning.
There's no support for them. There's known exploits, and people are buying them because they're cheap.
Mm-hmm. They're not going to be so cheap when they have all your data.
Right.
But yeah, I know I kind of went off topic there, but it does tie into, hey, I can go to this marketplace, get ransomware, and I'm going to get the easiest targets because of the end-of-life operating system and not running patches. Now, the insurance only goes so far, by the way. You got to have good insurance, and you've got to make sure that you have protections in place.
Absolutely. You want to talk about defending against ransomware as a service?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just like any other ransomware is make sure you run your patches, make sure you're not running end-of-life software, and make sure that you have endpoint protection and MFA. So again, you just don't want to be the target. You just don't want to make it easy. That's the main prevention you can do. And then I would suggest, if you're a larger organization, having an MSP or having a CISO look at your environment.
And how do you do that? You hire a CISO?
There's like rent a CISO. There's like my company, RapidScale, is a managed service provider, where you're hiring someone where that's what they do is monitor your network. And there's companies like where you'd have SOC as a service. It's all contingent on the size of your company and the need. But you got to do something. It's because if you don't, you are going to pay the price.
Yeah. A few other things you could do: regular backups, test your backups, have an incident response plan, so you're ready in case you do get hacked. You know exactly what you should do. You can learn a lot from those incident response plans and tabletop exercises in order to understand if somebody got in through this network or through one of our computers, how far can they get? Can they move laterally? And how do we isolate them?
Right.
If you're looking at your tabletop exercise and there's no way to isolate them because your network isn't segmented, then that's something that you should invest in.
Absolutely. You need run books. You need to, and it's something I call it like the dead man process is like, okay, so how long can we go without access to our data? A lot of companies, it's not that long. And you got to figure out a contingency plan and run backups, just disaster recovery. Like, hey, how long can we go? And then you adjust from there. But don't go to the table thinking that it's never going to happen to you. The more valuable your data, the more probability it's going to happen to you.
Right. And who are you going to use? What vendors are you going to use for your incident response? If you don't have insurance, which the insurance usually takes care of that, then do you have an incident response company that you're going to go to?
Right.
Do you have a retainer with them? Because if it's a large scale event, they're going to go with their clients and give them the service and not, Jim from IBO that's calling in.
Yeah, exactly. And then I like companies like Zertle. Zertle does a really good job of getting everything up and running quickly. But yeah, I call it the guy in the truck. You don't rely on the guy in the truck that's just managing your local network to create a DR plan for you. I definitely say go with the professionals.
And some of these IR firms have $0 retainers.
Mm-hmm.
So you can retain them, get to know them, maybe buy a few services from them if it makes sense. They get to know you, get to know your network. And then if you do have an incident, you have somebody to go to. You already signed up with them. And that crucial 4 to 24 hours after the hack, you're not spending time signing paperwork and negotiating rates.
That's a really good point. And those 4 hours are critical. That's a really good point. You want to be prepared. It's like the old adage, the punch that knocks you out is the one you don't see. But if you're not prepared, you're going to get knocked out. You're not going to see that punch.
Yeah. It gets real.
It gets real really quick. It's
not real until you get punched in the face.
Yeah,
Mike Tyson quote.
The Mike Tyson quote. Yeah, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much what this world is. It's like you better hold on to that plan because you are going to get punched in the face. And I laugh, but like I've seen it before. Like I remember a company that was it's a HIPAA compliant SaaS company, and they came into work. Every last person in the work booted up their computer and boom, just had the ransomware message. Everyone, even the executives that were working remotely. So when it happens to you, it's no joke.
Yeah, it's pretty serious when you have a ransomware attack. That's why you should buy cyber insurance.
That's right.
Call Joe at C3.
Right now.
Yeah, cyber insurance solves so many problems because it kind of comes with a panel of people that are already pre-negotiated for you with the insurance company. Even if it's like an uncovered claim and you go through, part of it's uncovered and you go through the insurance company, you're still going to get their discounted rates, which may be like $350 an hour for like a junior partner, where if you get it off the street, you're paying like $600-700 an hour. You're going to have the incident response team. They're going to have the breach counsel. And these guys are on the spot because they want to get more and more business from these insurance companies. I see these guys at the cyber insurance conventions, and they're talking them up, dining them out, because they want to be the person they call when there's a cyber breach. Now, having a $0 retainer or some retainer with one of those companies already is still going to get you service a little bit faster because there still is some kind of negotiation and deciding on who you're going to go with. And just that time and deciding like what vendor to use can be a crucial amount of time as well.
Absolutely. And then I was shocked yesterday when I called you because the person I was speaking to is like, yes, I was compromised, but it was only $15,000 and the insurance company covered the claim. And trust me, my data, it was a manufacturing company. My data is way more important than that 15 grand. And it just like, I was so grateful I paid that premium. And they just, in their particular situation, they weren't that tech savvy. They had all the data was on premise, but it had the, proprietary information on the manufacturing plant, the things that they're making that their customers paid them to make. And the guy was just so grateful. It's like, I'm glad I had the insurance, guy took care of it. If I didn't, I would have been screwed. And he said, like, again, I was fortunate it was only 15 grand, but if I didn't have the insurance, where would that come from? Oh, by the way, whoever it was very persistent. So they were sophisticated, meaning they just were not going to give him access to his computers or his data.
You could probably say that they could have asked for more money.
Oh, yeah.
15,000 is a very low request. I think the average is about 800,000
Which is probably why they paid the claim so quickly too.
Right. I mean, that's like a day of downtime. It's $15,000. You got to just get that paid depending on, the size of your company.
And that was what he experienced. It was so low that they just paid it right away. And then we're having conversations about obviously securing everything up so it doesn't happen again. But it was cool that they paid the claim that quickly. They got their data back. Bad guys let them alone. I don't know all the details because they're obviously only willing to disclose so much and they don't want to be liable. But being after the fact and seeing what happens after the fact, I can't stress how important it is to have cyber insurance.
Yeah, and the insurance companies want to resolve it as fast as possible because most cyber insurance policies come with business income coverage, which means that they're going to pay for the net loss and income for that company if they're breached. So every day that they're out, the insurance company is going to have to pay the company back for their net losses.
Yeah.
So they also have skin in the game. So they want to either pay the guy off fast, get the claim process as fast as can. And if you have to rebuild your systems, don't spare an expense to like save some money because, you don't want to have like 2-day shipping. We got to just like get these servers in here and get it rebuilt.
Exactly. And I like the fact that you made a good point that the insurance companies have skin in the game because it's not like a car accident and you want leverage and you want it to be in your favor for the insurance company to get everything resolved. And they have a lot of professionals that can work with the infrastructure as well.
So go insurance.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Well, I've been on the cloud side and the data center side, and we'd laugh, but I got to tell you, after the fact, you're like, God damn, I wish they had insurance. Because I've seen companies be taken out because they didn't have insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so inexpensive right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is just a hypothetical, but maybe we had a call from a client that could have bought a $4,200 cyber insurance policy. He's been hacked. He's been out. He's had over 10 days of downtime as like a recycling company, and he's refusing to pay the ransom. It's like, dude, what are you doing? He hasn't even called an incident response firm. He's trying to get like his IT people to figure it out.
I'm not going to figure it out.
No.
That's what I was expecting. The guy in the truck is not going to figure it out. I mean, like, so let me say you got ransomware that was created by the NSA that some kid bought. And now you think that you're going to outsmart the NSA? No, you're not. And you're not going to, it's just, I can just drive this every day. Like people will have like, hey, my friend's a tech guy. Just because someone can configure a D-Link router doesn't mean he's going to be able to get your computer encrypted. It's not the world we live in.
No. It's okay to ask for help, people.
Yes, it is. And I hope eventually that person makes the right decision because he needs an incident response team to negotiate on his behalf and figure it out.
Yep. So are there any trends in ransomware as a service? Like what's happening? Like where's this going? Is it growing?
It's definitely growing.
What about like AI? Is that changing it?
I'm sure it is. I really couldn't find too much about AI being in it. What it is just it's taken off because it's the affiliate plans. Like the RaaS companies, if you want to call them companies, have affiliate plans. So picture your guy that's sitting there watching, I don't know, the Grant Cardones of the world. Like, oh shit, I want to be rich like Grant Cardone. This fucking real estate shit's hard. I can get into ransomware as a service and I can get onto that affiliate plan. And I think that's where the true danger is. The danger is not in the people that are sophisticated. It's not in the people that live in that world. I think the real danger is that it's going to the masses, the ignorant masses that can just now spread malware everywhere. And
is it all on the dark web, or can you get some of this on the regular web?
I'm sure you get some on the regular web. The majority of it's on the dark web, but again, it's so sophisticated in the actual attack. But what they did is they created a distribution system because they're not going to be held liable. Let's say I went to go buy this malware from a company. They're going to get a percentage of the money back, and law enforcement is going to see my IP address. Law enforcement is going to see people that could be connected me indirectly or directly. They're not going to find out the source. Because think about it, it's like the kernel. Let's call it the kernel. And if you were doing code, they're not going to have access to the kernel, but they'll have access all to the end users. And the threat is that they can just keep producing this malware and never be caught.
Right.
The people be caught are the people think, all right, I'm going to make 30 grand a month with malware.
Yeah. And if these big hacker groups like Black Cat, who was taken down by the FBI earlier this year, go FBI, they still will come back and they'll evolve, and it only makes them stronger.
Exactly. It's like deliberate practice.
So it's a cat and mouse game. It really is. You know,
but
it's
now
all
we got a lot
evolving.
more mice.
Yeah.
That's the real problem. You can only the cat can only chase so many mice.
Yeah, and you have these Dark Bart, Fraud GPT AIs helping the common person that can't code malware.
Mm-hmm.
So even, you know, some college kid that's, you know, a computer science major that just wants to mess around can write some malware
Very easily. They're actually the computer science kids are 100 times better than the majority of the people doing this, in my opinion, because they'll just write their own code. I go back to the fraudsters of the world. Now you're opening up to the door to the fraudsters. Same people that were doing, oh God, I don't know how many scams are out there. I saw one that was hilarious where, solar powered dryer. And what they were selling is a clothesline. So they, but hey, that same guy that was selling the clothesline, he has this big pitch, this ad copy, like, oh, save energy, save the environment. He sends you the clothesline.
Oh, wow.
That's the same guy that's going to be selling malware.
solar power dryer. I like that. It's a good repackaging of an
Yeah, exactly.
of something old.
How's that for ad copy?
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I got on RaaS, but I keep going back to the same thing. It's like, be careful and don't make yourself vulnerable. Have disaster recovery plan in place. Make sure your endpoints are protected and make sure you have insurance.
Absolutely.